Okay, our read aloud is called The Circuit Stories from the Life of a Migrant Child by Francisco Jimenez. I'd like to thank my students for giving me the positive feedback that I need to keep these read alouds effective. You know who you are. You've been sending me comments on my YouTube channel. Thank you. Chapter is called Miracle in Tent City. We called it Tent City. Everybody called it Tent City, although it was neither a city nor a town. It was a farm working labor camp owned by Shehi Strawberry Farms. Tent City had no address. It was simply known as rural Santa Maria. It was on Main Street, about 10 miles east of the corner of town. A half a mile east of it were hundreds of acres of strawberries cultivated by Japanese sharecroppers and harvested by people from the camp. Behind the tent city was dry wilderness, and a mile north of it was the city dump. Many of the residents in the camp were single men, most of whom, like us, had crossed the border illegally. There were a few single women and a few families, all Mexican. Mama was already expecting when we moved to Tent City from Corcoran by the end of January, after the cotton season was over. By May, when the strawberry harvest started, she was only a few months away from giving birth. So, she did not join Papa in the fields picking strawberries for Ito. She could not bend over, and picking on her knees was too hard on her. To make ends meet, Mama cooked for 20 farm workers who lived in Tent City. She made their lunches and had supper ready for them when they returned from picking strawberries at the end of the day. She would get up at 4 o'clock every morning, 7 days a week, to make the tortillas for both meals. On weekends, and all during the summer, Roberto and I helped her. Once Papa left for work, Roberto rolled the tacos while I wrapped them in wax paper and put them in lunch bags. At 11:30, Roberto carried the 20 lunches to a box and delivered them on foot to the workers, who were given half an hour for lunch. When he returned, he and I washed dishes in a large aluminum tub. When we took care of our younger brother Trampita while Mother took a nap. Around 3 o'clock, she would start cooking dinner, which was served from 6 to 7. After supper, Roberto and I cleaned the pots and washed the dishes while Mama fed Trampita. On Saturdays, she did all the grocery shopping for the week. Because we did not have an ice box, that's like a refrigerator, Papa made one. Every 3 days, he went into town to buy a large block of ice, which he wrapped in burlap and placed inside a hole dug in the ground by the entrance to our tent. The hole was twice as large as the block of ice, leaving room on all 4 sides and on top for things to be kept cold. Even though Mama was tired from all the work she did, she made sure everything was ready for the new baby. She asked Papa to seal the base of the tent by piling extra dirt about 6 inches high all around it so that the animals, especially snakes, could not crawl in underneath during the night. When Papa had finished, Mama pleaded with him to build a floor. He agreed, and every evening he came home from work, he sent Roberto and I to the city dump to look for discarded lumber to build a floor inside our tent. Our trip to the dump was always an adventure. We waited until dusk after the dump caretaker left before raiding for treasures because we had no money to buy them. When we went home in the evenings, the caretaker locked the more valuable items, such as used clothing, car parts, and broken lamps, in a makeshift shed. The larger pieces, mattresses, box springs, broken pieces of furniture, he left outside. I collected books, hoping to read them once I learned how. My favorites of those were pictures. Late one evening, thinking the caretaker had left, Roberto and I sneaked inside into the dump. The dump keeper, who had hidden behind one of the mounds of rubbish, took us by surprise. He chased us, yelling and cursing in broken Spanish. We were scared and went home empty-handed that night, but we were back several more times until we got enough lumber to build Mama's floors. We found pieces of linoleum and laid them over the wood to cover the holes and slivers. The different shapes and colors made the floor look like a quilt. On one of our trips, we found a large wooden box that became the crib for the new baby. Mama took an old green army blanket, tore it in half, and lined the box with it. She made a little pillow, wood stuffing from an old mattress, and cloth from a white flour sack. Mama also made sure the entrance to the tent was always closed to keep out the smoke and odor from the camp's garbage dump located directly in front of our tent, 20 yards away. It was a large rectangular hole dug in the dirt, about 6 feet long and 4 feet wide and 3 feet deep. On windy days, the foul smell of the city dump competed with the stench of this tent city dump. The older neighborhood kids killed snakes and threw them into the garbage hole when it was burning and watched them sizzle and squirm. Okay, that's not very nice. I could not figure out why they twisted and turned to the fire after they were dead. It was as though the fire brought them back to life. Trampita got too close to the garbage hole and fell in once. Roberto pulled him out. Luckily, it was not burning. From then on, Papa did not let us play near it. When the baby was finally born, Roberto, Trampita, and I were excited to see him, especially because we had worked so hard to get things ready for him. Mom and Papa named him Juan Manuel, but we all called him Torito, Little Bull, because he weighed 10 pounds at birth. That's a lot of weight. A lot of babies weigh like 6-7 pounds. He had a chubby round face and curly brown hair. I thought the nickname Torito fit him because he had a strong grip. I would put out my 2 fingers in his tiny hands. Whenever I tried pulling away, he would not let go, and would kick with both feet. When Mama nursed him, he closed his eyes and played with her hair. Whenever I changed his diapers, I made him laugh by tickling his stomach. I liked playing with Torito because he was always cheerful and because he helped me forget about the report card I got in June, a few days before he was born. Miss Scalapino, my first grade teacher, said I had to repeat her class because I did not know English. About 2 months after he was born, Torito got sick. I knew there was something wrong with him when he cried off and on during the night. The next morning when I tickled him, he didn't even smile. He looked pale. Mama, who had not slept much that night either, touched his forehead. I think Torito has a fever, she said, a bit flustered. Please look after him while Roberto and I prepare the lunches. I touched my forehead, then Torito's to see if I could tell the difference. He felt a lot hotter. I changed his soiled diaper. It smelled terrible. That afternoon, Mama had to change him often. His thighs and bottom got as red as the back of Papa's sunburned neck. By the afternoon of the following day, the aluminum tub was almost filled with soiled diapers. To rinse them, I got water in a bucket from the faucet, which was located a few feet from the outhouse in the middle of the camp. Outhouse is the outside bathroom. Luckily, I did not have to wait in line too long. Only one woman with 2 buckets was ahead of me. Once she finished, I filled my bucket and carried it back to our tent. I poured the water into the diaper tub and rinsed the diapers with my right hand while I held my nose with the left. Mama then heated water in a pot and poured it into the tub and washed the diapers on a washboard and then hung them to dry outside on the clothesline Papa had made. Mama bathed Torito in cold water several times a day, trying to bring his fever down, but it did not do any good. In the evenings, we prayed for him in front of the faded picture of the Virgin de Guadalupe, which was tied with string to the canvas wall above the mattress. One night, as we were praying, Torito got worse. He stiffened, clenched his arms. Clenched means like to hold tight. Clenched his arms and legs, and his eyes rolled back. Saliva dribbled from both sides of his mouth. His lips turned purple. He stopped breathing. Thinking he was dead, I started crying hysterically. Roberto and Mama did too. Trampita got scared and began to whimper. Papa tried to pry open Torito's mouth, but he could not. His jaws were locked. Mama picked him up from the box and held him tightly against her chest. Please, God, don't take him away, please. Mama repeated over and over again. Torito slowly began to breathe. His arms and legs relaxed. I could see the brown color of his eyes again. We all sighed with relief, wiping our tears with the backs of our hands and crying and laughing at the same time. No one slept that night. Torito woke up several times. Crying several times. The next morning, Mama's eyes were puffy and red. She took a lot longer than usual to make the tortillas and the lunches. After Papa left for work, Roberto and I washed the dishes. Mama kept her eyes glued onto Torito. She gave him water and tried to nurse him, but she was not producing enough milk, so she prepared him a bottle. By the afternoon, she could hardly keep her head up. Roberto and I convinced her to take a nap while we took care of Torito. Mama had trouble falling asleep. When she finally did, Torito started crying. She jumped up out of the bed, picked him up in her arms, and rocked him, trying to calm him. Once he quieted down, she asked Roberto and me to clean the beans to cook for supper. That's all we'll have for tonight, she said apologetically. Frijoles de la olla. I hope the boarders won't mind. They won't, I responded, placing the bean pot on the kerosene stove. That evening after supper, Mama laid Torito on the mattress to change him. When she pulled the front of the soiled diaper off, and saw blood. She screamed at Papa, Viejo, he's getting worse. Look, there's blood in his stool. Papa rushed over and knelt on the mattress next to Torito, who started to moan. He felt Torito's forehead and stomach. Still has a fever, Papa said pensively. His stomach feels hard. Maybe it's something he ate. If he doesn't get better soon, we'll have to take him to the hospital. But we don't have any money, Mama responded sobbing and looking sadly at Torito. We'll borrow or something, Papa said, putting his right hand around Mama's shoulder. Papa was about to continue when Donna Maria, our next-door neighbor, interrupted. Can I come in? She asked, poking her head inside the entrance of our tent. Donna Maria was known in the tent city as La Curandera because she had a gift for curing people with different herbs and chants. She was tall and slender and always wore a black dress that matched the color of her straight, long hair. Her skin was ruddy and pockmarked with eyes, and her eyes were set deep and light green. Tied around her waist was a small purple velvet bag that jingled when she walked. Come in, Papa answered. I've been hearing your baby cry, Donna Maria continued. What's wrong with him? We don't know, Mama answered. Could it be the evil eye? Asked Donna Maria, holding the velvet bag in the palm of her left hand. It's a very handsome child. El mal de ojo? I think it's his stomach. Feels as hard as a rock. Feel it, Papa responded, bringing the kerosene lamp closer to Torito so she can get a better look at him. Donna Maria gently rubbed Torito's stomach with her bony right hand. As soon as she pressed down on it, he groaned and started to cry. She turned him over on his stomach and with her left hand pulled up a fold of skin from his back and then released it. After doing this 3 times, she flipped him over again on his back and asked Mama to bring her 3 eggs. She cracked the eggs on his stomach and massaged him gently with them. The eggs will draw out his sickness, she said confidently. Torito stopped crying. Mama seemed relieved, but I was not. There was something about La Curandera that made me nervous. Moments after Donna Maria left, just as we were getting ready for bed, Torito started moaning. Then he suddenly stopped. There was dead silence. We all looked at each other and rushed to his side. He was as stiff as a board and had stopped breathing. His eyes rolled back. Mama started weeping. Like Roberto and Trampita, I cried too. I felt very scared. Perhaps Donna Maria made him worse, I thought. Pop looked quickly, picked up Torito, wrapped him up in a blanket and yelled, Vieja, vámonos a hospital. And he and Mama ran out and they took off in the Cacachita. Roberto, Trampita, and I just stood there crying. I thought I'd never seen Torito again. Frightened and confused, I walked outside. It was pitch dark. I went behind our tent, knelt down on the rocky ground, and prayed for Torito for a very long time until my parents returned. As soon as I heard the Cacachita, I got up from my knees and ran to the front of the tent to meet them. When I saw Papa and Mama and Torito, I panicked. Is he dead? I cried out. No, Panchito, calm down, Papa answered. We left him at the hospital. Is he going to die? I stammered. No, he isn't, Mama snapped. God won't let him, you'll see, she added in a harsh tone. Her face was flushed and dark eyes were full of tears. I was surprised and puzzled. Why would she be angry at me? That night I had trouble sleeping, thinking about Torito. Mom and Papa did not sleep either. I heard Mama sobbing every time I woke up and saw Papa smoking one cigarette after another. Early the next morning, Mama said she was going to drive Papa to work. I thought it was strange because Papa always took the car to go pick strawberries. Besides, it was only 5:30. Papa did not have to be at work there until 7, and it only took a few minutes to get there. I'll be right back, Mama said, looking at Torito and me. Be sure to take care of Trampita. I followed my parents to the car, and as Mama was about to get in, I asked, Can we go see Torito when you get back? Mama closed the door without even answering and sped off. Roberto and I went back in the tent. We did not say a word to each other, but each of us knew what the other was thinking. We knelt down side by side on the mattress in front of the Virgin de Guadalupe and prayed silently. I was worried and irritated by the time Mama returned. It was about 11. Where were you? I asked angrily. I want to go see Torito. Only if God wills it, she said sadly, putting her arms around Roberto and me. What do you mean? I asked. Torito's very sick, she replied. He has a rare disease that may be catching. That's why you can't see him. Catching means you can get it from him. But you went to see him this morning, didn't you? I responded, raising my voice. That's why you took so long, right? Si, mijo, she answered. But they won't let children in to see him. You can see him when he comes home. When is that? Roberto and I asked at the same time. Soon, probably, she answered hesitantly. I had a feeling Mama was not telling us all that she knew. After preparing supper, Mama went to pick up Papa from work. When they got home, Papa looked very upset and anxious. I waited for them to talk about Torito, but they did not say a word about him. As soon as dinner was over, they left for the hospital. After Roberto and I cleaned the